Okay, so this is our first potential podcast. Potentially our first podcast. Whatever. It's one of those. And my name is Tam, but I also might go by Kiki Lou, Dominique, Izanami Kun. Any of those, totally acceptable. If you accidentally dox me with my real first name, it's also fine because there's a lot of those out there. So I don't really care either way. But then we have Eternally Mortal, and
Hi, I'm Eternally Mortal. I tend to go by mortal just to save on syllables. Um, yeah. Hi. I don't think I don't think it's really going to be a problem if you end up calling me by my first name either. Do you have a preference of what you want me to call you?
I don't care.
Cool.
And I'll probably try to just stick to Mortal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll probably go with Tam. I do like a single syllable. I told someone once they could call me Mort,
Mort.
and it's such a funny word. I wanna live up to it just so I can have people say Mort more often, but
I don't know if I'm going to be okay with that, but I will keep that in mind.
it's fine. This might really quickly devolve into us just talking like we always do anyway.
Essentially, that's the point of the podcast, is us just talking like we do normally anyway, but with a slight guidance to it. That's why I'm kind of setting this as the tone for, like, what are the rules? What are the boundaries? Great segue into it. How far is too far? What is too personal? Like, do you have boundaries
No,
about this?
I don't think so. I'm not gonna have boundaries during our conversations. If it becomes necessary to edit something out, then we'll talk about it. But like, that's just gonna be me panicking after the fact. I don't want to have a whole lot of boundaries
Yeah, me neither.
during this conversation because like that's it's kind of one of the things that I'm really hoping changes about online culture is that we stop taking advantage of people that open up their boundaries and share our boundaries, and go past them with certain people, more freely. It just seems like that would help, but it's just my perspective.
I think really the only big boundary that I have is, I guess I have a couple. Like addresses, I don't want
Sure.
that to be put, like address, phone number, personally identifiable information. Let's just agree that that's just all around not a good thing
Sure, sure.
to put out there.
Totally agree.
And then there's like this weird kind of gray area of people who we know mutually.
Excuse me.
Like, I don't know if we should. I feel like maybe those might be like things that we bleep out if we use their full name.
Like if we have to, but I'm probably going to be a little hesitant to talk about anybody that we know personally. Depending on the situation, it might be a good example.
It
But
might
like,
just pop out.
and it might actually pop out. We'll edit that out. That's fine.
Right.
Hey, you listening? You don't get to hear everything. Just deal with it.
But we are going to be as vulnerable as possible without exposing other people's vulnerability, because I don't
Right.
I don't feel like that's our, like, other people's names. That's not really
No.
our responsibility or right
Right.
to put them out on blast like that. And so that's kind of that's
Be,
where I'm going to draw a line.
be as open as you can without harming others. I fully agree.
Right. Okay. Oh, so this is kind of like a lot of details about the podcast. That's kind of what I've got on the docket, whatever.
Okay.
So like, where would be good to post this podcast if we were to use this version, which we may? Um, where is it okay to put it? On Medium, on Patreon, on Discord, potentially. Um, Maybe even on my directory website. I'm not really sure where I want to put it. So I kind of want to know from your perspective where you, like, if you have any sort of preference about where it goes.
Okay, so I'm hard against 4chan. Besides that, I don't really care.
Okay. I mean, the point is, like, on the directory, it'd be like 100% free. Anybody can go there.
Sure.
On Medium, it'd probably be behind the paywall, which, $5 a month membership, whatever. And then on Patreon, again, probably behind a paywall, potentially on the free side for some of them or most of them. But,
Sure.
that would also be, you know, kind of a paid content sort of situation. So,
Understood.
want to get that kind of out there, and we can determine if there's an episode that you're like, I want this to be free for everybody, then by
Okay.
all means,
Well,
let me know.
that's good to know. Absolutely. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I'm pretty sure. Right now, I have no objections to anything. You can put this wherever you
This
want.
one would be free because like there's no point to
Also, we're not
limiting the
talking about
first
anything.
one. Like
Also,
that.
we're not talking about anything yet.
Yeah, we're not really talking about anything yet. This is more of a meet and greet. Hi, how are you?
Hi,
Here's me. Here's the things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then lastly, before I get to like main stuff, what do you create?
I don't create shit yet,
No,
but
but you
I'm working on it.
do.
Um, I envision a future where I am producing YouTube videos, streaming on Twitch, and writing on Medium. Currently, the only thing that actually exists is a couple of, I'm going to air quote heavily, articles on Medium that are very vulnerable for me, but I don't expect them to be particularly entertaining. But I don't really expect anything I do to be particularly entertaining.
I think they're quite entertaining.
But I would love to be able to create content like that that is a plan for the future. Maybe saying it in a place where people will hear it will mean that I'll actually do some of that shit. But I will be eternally mortal in all of those places. I think I got the username on Twitch, on YouTube, and on I don't know about YouTube, but I definitely have it on Twitch and I definitely have it in Medium. So that's where you can find me, Eternally Mortal.
Um, so for anybody listening that doesn't know what I do a little bit of everything. I have accounts everywhere, but if you follow my Medium account, The Accidental Monster, which is where TAM comes from, it's an acronym. Woohoo! That will link to pretty much everything that I do, which is erotica, fantasy, fiction, spiritual, self help, and community building, and a little bit of writing on Medium stuff. So, kind of a little bit of everything. I'm insane.
It's
So,
been a fantastic journey watching it unfold so far, just from my perspective. I mean,
Has
we're
it?
roommates, but like I've been enjoying the ride.
Fair. Okay. Oh, we also talked about maybe talking about the name,
Oh yeah, we did talk about the name.
and that'll be a good segue into the main content because the main content is about vulnerability, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what the podcast in general is going to be about. So,
At least initially.
right, I'm sure it'll go other places, but I feel like we should have a name that kind of portrays that it's about vulnerability, but not in a stupid way.
I mean, you could go with something like Mimi and stupid, like Tam and the Mortal expose themselves. You could do something like that.
I gotta write these down. Here's a.
I mean, and you also you could keep the branding yourself if you didn't want to necessarily like. Who knows where my where my passions are going to take me in the future? So who knows if I'm going to be here for the entirety of it? But you might be able to extend this podcast beyond me. I might be able to extend this podcast beyond you. Who knows what's going to happen, right? But you could just have it as Tam Talks, and then as a little subtitle underneath with Eternally Mortal.
I mean, I could also, and this kind of breaks a little bit more vulnerability. Haha. I could also call it Talk at Liz.
Yeah.
I did buy a website for the next like 10 years, 9 now. That was talkatliz.com.
I mean, that's cute, but that's not really what podcast is, because
I know.
you're going to be talking at
I'm just going to be
them.
talking with you.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's not quite the same. And I had a different vision for Talk at Liz anyway. I wanted people to write in anonymously things
Right.
that they didn't want to anybody to know that was going on, but they felt like they wanted to share.
Mm-mm.
And then I was going to sort of take those experiences and maybe if there were a bunch of overlapping ones, kind of rewrite them and expose them in an anonymous way to the world.
Interesting. That's kind of terrifying.
That's it.
Well, it opens up this like enormous door for trauma dumping, and like there's
Yeah.
so much pain in the world that people are embarrassed about, and while I want desperately to heal all of them of that, and that's a great idea to help do something along those lines, actually, um, I cannot even envision the weight that I would feel if I
That's
had
why I
to.
haven't really gone through with it yet.
I
I really
understand.
liked the idea, but now that you're mentioning that, now I see what stopped me, and that is I need to have something to do positively with it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it does just become a trauma dump. It just becomes something that
Which could
packs
be
on the weight on my shoulders.
right. It could be helpful to them to be able to express it finally.
Oh,
But
sure.
like you can't necessarily just be the receptacle of all that. You would
Right.
have to write that in story. Like you would have to take common elements and like turn them into goddamn fucking printed ass novels that old white women buy at the bookstore. Like that's the only
I
way
don't
that
know
would
if I
work.
have to do that with it.
No,
Like,
that's the only way.
but I do think that maybe that maybe like taking the idea that I had of the kind words part of the kind words videos that I was doing and making it sort of that kind of thing where like yeah I'll write the confession to the world, the anonymous confession to the world. Maybe I won't even rewrite it. Maybe I'll just read it and respond to it
Mm.
in that same way, in a way that like you know that isn't anonymous from me. Because that's kind of what I didn't like about kind words is that I could never share who I was.
Well, yeah.
And that, well, I mean, it's fine for the person confessing to be anonymous, but the person that's giving the help, the advice, the connection, whatever, giving them anonymity is dangerous.
Oh, I can see that there's a possibility of danger there. I understand what the creators of Kind Words were going
I
for,
do
and I
too,
don't
but
I don't judge them for it at all.
no,
It
no,
was
no,
a
no. But
totally
that's what I
interesting
wanted
idea.
from the talk at Liz was like I
Mm-hmm.
want to take this concept, which objectively it's a really great idea, and I want to be held accountable for my responses to
Mm-hmm.
it,
Right.
and for people to know that I am a resource that can give this kind of response if they wanted to have that kind of response. So like that was the whole point behind it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't intend for this to be like a you know an unveiling of that concept
No,
or
no, no. Of
anything.
course not. We're just
I don't
talking
know
about
that I'm
shit.
doing anything with it.
Us talking, especially about vulnerability, is just going to possibly bring up old shit. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
And, I assume there's going to be some sort of an ability for people to interact or comment with the content, and maybe there'll be a clamoring for fucking Talk It Liz.
Maybe.
But, like,
Maybe.
until then, I think we can just go ahead
Yeah.
and shelve the idea for now.
That's fair.
Because we got a lot of shit going on.
Don't we?
We do.
Okay, so anyway, names. So I'm thinking exposing us. From what you said.
Mm.
Because Tam and Mortal expose themselves seems real long to me, and people are impatient. I'm impatient. I want it to get straight to the point as quickly as possible.
Yeah. That's kind of why I like Tam Talks with Eternally
Yeah,
Mortal.
but that takes you out.
With Eternally Mortal
Oh.
as a subtitle.
Oh. Yeah, but that takes out the exposure part. I really like
For
that.
me? What are you talking? Oh, okay, yeah.
No, not your exposure, but
the title.
the vulnerability part of the exposure.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it could be exposing Tam, but that, I don't know. That seems really like 2020 Dateline. I mean,
right. Yeah, that's not quite.
it seems like a 60 Minutes episode.
Yeah, I don't know if we can really continue to use. I mean, I'm starting to lose the fucking meaning of expose, if I'm being honest. Like, the word is ridiculous now. revealing Tam.
Hmm. Why does it have to have my name in it?
Well, you're putting it on your shit first. Like, I mean, we'll co-release it at some point, but for now, it's just yours. I'm just here for the memes.
I don't know. When I think about it, I think exposing us or even revealing ourselves, like those things sound more interesting to me than if you were to put, because like nobody knows me, okay? Like the 5 people on Medium that know me might be interested, but I don't know that anybody else, like everybody else is gonna be like, who is that? I don't care,
It's true.
you know?
Um. Uh. How about exposing nobodies?
Exposing nobodies.
Yeah.
You know, at this point, I am really just writing these down because it's going to go to a vote. You know that, right? We're not actually going to determine anything at all here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who's voting on this?
I don't know. Whoever decides they want to vote on this.
I wouldn't necessarily expect audience interaction necessarily. I don't want to put any pressure. Hey, you listening? You don't have to do nothing. You just take care of yourself. You find some smiles and self care today. Have you stretched? Did you hydrate? I'm just making sure. Okay. But yeah, do a vote. But if no response comes, then be prepared to make a decision, or we can make a decision at that point
I
too.
mean, that's fair. I mean, we're 16 minutes into this, so I feel like anybody who's listening at this point is, you know, they're going to be they're the people we're talking to at this point.
Sure.
You know, the people in the beginning, they might have just kind of touched their foot in the waters, but at this point, if you're still listening, you're the people that we're doing this for. And I don't mind kind of exposing my hand here because that's what this is all about. What I really want from this podcast is to find a way to build like a reciprocal community building. So, like the people that listen to this stuff, if they interact with or connect with the material in some way, and then like they comment on something, I want to be able to find those comments and bring them into the next episode.
Mm.
To, you know, kind of shout out to them and interact with them through the podcast.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. It puts an expectation on it that I'm a little leery of, but I understand.
It's really a hope. It's not an expectation. I don't expect it to happen.
Okay,
I
cool.
hope it happens.
Excellent. But until that happens.
Until that happens, we're just talking.
Shooting the shit, right?
Yeah, and even when that does happen, it's still us shooting the shit. Like I don't want it to shape everything about what our podcasts are. I just want it to be a part of like a hidden Easter egg, a little benefit,
Mm-mm-mm.
a side bonus for people.
Understood. So, in that vein, if you're still listening, dear listener, then please in the comments below put your favorite name for our podcast so far, even if it's something that we haven't said so far. Hit us with something new. Maybe it'll be amazing and witty enough that it'll blow us away.
And here's the thing: if only one person puts a comment in it, then they get to choose the name.
Well, that's a lot of pressure. Like coming from a socially anxious boy on Twitch.
It's a lot of privilege.
It is a lot of I'm talking from a first person experience here. If I'm in a chat and someone asks a question and I'm the only one that answers, and then I become like responsible to help them through the next several questions, and sometimes it scares the shit out of me. So like it's allowed is all I'm saying.
What's allowed?
To be a little like if you were the only one that puts a comment on I'm sorry, I'm getting deep. If you're the only one that puts a comment on this podcast, don't feel like there's pressure on you to perform in any specific way. We would only want people to be here if they wanted to be here.
Yes.
Not out of obligation or responsibility. And that may seem like it's ridiculous, but like there's got to be more than just me out there that feels an obligation and a responsibility to a community or to a creator that they really like.
Yes, but let's be honest. If you came across this and they were like, if you're the only person that, and you get to determine our thing, you would look in the comments, if nobody else had commented, you just wouldn't comment. And that's okay.
And that's okay.
There's no pressure for the person that's in your position to ever comment. Even if they have like this amazing idea for the name, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like that's why I feel that's why I feel comfortable giving that power over to the listener to give us the name, because I don't care if it's Bodie McBoatface. I will name it that because I like, unless it's something vulgar. Okay, there's limits. I gotta set my boundaries.
Yeah, please set a boundary there.
Vulgarity is not okay.
Do you remember when the internet named something and they named it like sex
It was
cat
Bodie
penis?
McBoatface.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah,
oh, that's right.
And then they decided that wasn't good enough, and I think that was a travesty. Like that was terrible. That was a moment where they could have followed through, and it would have been amazing.
It would have been a beautiful moment. It's true.
Do you know how connecting that would have been for people? And then they were just like, no.
It was still pretty connecting for people. Just because the people that were doing it didn't follow through doesn't really mean anything, except that corporations suck.
I mean,
I
think there were two, and like Bodie McBoatface was like number two, and like the number one was something vulgar that was totally understandable for them to not do. But Bodie McBoatface was fine. What was wrong with that?
I know, right?
I think that's a great name.
It's very cute. I love it.
I don't want to name this Bodie McBoatface because it doesn't have anything to do with it. But they were naming a boat, so it made perfect sense there.
Mm-hmm.
The vulnerability McVulnerable Face, which is a really weird and hard to say name. If that's the thing that they're like, yeah, let's do that. All right, I don't like it, but that's fine. It's not about me liking the name. It's about it being an experience that we get to share in vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And if people hate the name and are like, let's change it, okay, let's do it then.
If we had done this in the late 90s or the early 2000s based on what was acceptable to say at the time and playing off of like gender stereotypes, we could have named this Your Vagina's Showing. We could have.
We could still.
I don't know, man. Like, I know we're old. We're fucking boomers according to the internet, but like that seems like maybe it would seem a little out of touch to some people.
I mean, we could name it Our Vagina is Showing.
Sure.
Then they might get the wrong idea. But, that's... Well, I gotta write that one down now.
Alright, write it down.
You could talk.
I could talk while you're writing because this is an audio-based thing that is happening currently, but unfortunately I didn't have any other thoughts besides narrating the moment. So, here we are.
Here we are. Okay, well, I think that's enough attempts at naming, and we've given the listener a sort of task. Should they choose to accept it? It's not a requirement or anything.
This message will explode in 60 seconds.
Okay, so on to the main topic, and I didn't have any idea what we wanted to really talk about, to be honest.
Do you have something written down?
I have some things written down, but it's really just thoughts and not like a specific thing.
Does it seem like it doesn't fit the vibe currently?
I don't know. Nothing fits the vibe. The vibe is just vibing.
Everything fits the vibe.
Which means nothing fits it. So
sure, okay.
So because of my thing of wanting to be able to shout out to people, I want to shout out to a brand new account member friend person.
Oh.
That their name is, I believe it was You Good. They're the ones that actually suggested said podcast.
This podcast?
This podcast.
Okay. Say the name again?
You Good.
You Good.
I think it's like YOU, Good, GOOD, and a question mark.
On Medium.
On Medium. Brand new account.
Shout out to You Good.
I'm going to say I want their nickname, and maybe it's wrong of me, but I want their nickname to be Yogo.
Yogo, indeed. Consent, of course, is important, and if You Good doesn't like Yogo, that's totally fine. But
totally fine.
Shout out to You Good. You good? Sorry, I couldn't. It just happened.
So they're the ones that they're the one that suggested this thing, this podcasty idea, and even kind of gave us the hint of the vulnerability being the topic. Like, it's
Oh, I thought that naturally came from you.
no,
Talking.
no, that came from you good talking about, you know, kind of batting ideas around, and we were kind of like talking about vulnerability at the time. You and I were, and then they and I were also talking about vulnerability, so it did kind of come up naturally in both places, but it just seemed to, and I remember bringing it up to you as a suggestion that they provided. So
Okay.
yeah, just, moment of shout out. So the thoughts on the podcast are like, what are our hopes, fears, and ideas as far as this podcast goes?
That's an interesting question to ask. Um, the only thing I would say, hope for is that it would be interesting enough for people to grab a hold of the idea. Because I really do believe that we need a bit more vulnerability in the world. We need to show our ass to people a little bit more, be a little bit more self-aware in our own mistakes, in our times getting something wrong, being able to accept and move forward with those things, and also just share what we really feel with each other, and hope that we wouldn't be judged. And that's really where the fear of being vulnerable comes from, is being judged harshly, typically. And a lot of times our mind makes it more, the judgment more savage than it really is. But that's because there is some very fucking savage judgment out there for everything. So I want to make an impact on that. I don't know if this podcast is something that will necessarily like be a vehicle to help make that happen, but that's what I want to do, is that I want the world to be nicer to each other.
Well, that's a lot.
Yeah. I know.
I'm gonna take this real quick. Hold on. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
I'll cut this out. Anxiety.
We'll probably wait until you get done chewing that, right?
I'm going as fast as I can, I promise.
Yeah, but don't rush. It makes it worse.
Water break.
Maybe don't cut it out. I mean, we're being vulnerable, right?
That actually brings up a really good point. I have considered not editing these.
Right? It's a possibility.
Unless absolutely necessary, just not editing them and just leaving the mistakes in, leaving the awkward, the coughs, and the me taking a stress gummy because my anxiety's
Ramped.
doing things. I think it might be blood sugar, which, I mean, the stress gummy is made of sugar. So two birds, one stone, but it's not something that people want to listen to.
But it's real.
It is real.
And that's kind of a thing that, like, people are really going, well, in the circles that I'm running around in right now, it's something that a lot of people are really going for, is being genuine, being real, sharing their real selves, and people seem to like it. Not an enormous number of people, but I'm starting to see more and more and more creators lean that direction. You're looking, I don't necessarily want to start name dropping creators. I'm not sure if I'm quite ready for that sort of thing, but there's some big ones out there that I feel like are going in a more, this is just who I am direction. I don't want to be the character anymore.
And that's kind of what you were saying, like, show the ass. Like, not like moon people, not like expose yourself
Right.
genitally to
Don't
people,
break laws.
but like to let it be okay when you do things that aren't pretty.
Right.
You know, if you, I guess I'll leave it in because that seems like it would be against the whole point of the podcast if I took that out.
I'm sorry,
Now.
it seemed to have caused you some anxiety, me going that big and deep.
No,
Like,
I'm just having anxiety.
okay, cool. That's good to know. But yeah, I don't know. It's just hard to. Right now, for the first episode, we're just both sitting in front of a mic and having a conversation we would have any time. Basically, with some awkwardness around the fact that there's something pointed at us.
Right. Well, there's a little bit of guidance to it because I have notes.
You do have notes, absolutely. But you just generated those notes yourself beforehand. It's not like we haven't had conversations where you generated notes beforehand.
That is very true. That is very true. We don't usually record those conversations,
No.
but in hindsight, I kind of feel like we should have.
Many,
There have been many points where we're like, we should have recorded this.
yeah, sometimes we come up with some good shit and talk about some good shit. And vulnerability is one of those things that is such a big aspect of being a human, because like everyone has something that they don't want other people to see or poke or touch or talk to or kiss. Sorry.
They couldn't see your face.
I know. Anyway, um, and so that's kind of where the concept of vulnerability is. That's why a lot of people idolize, kind of like the childlike mindset, because a lot of little kids, they don't have this concept of being afraid that people will find something out about them. You know what I mean?
Well, they do, but it's learned. It's something that they pick up.
Yeah.
The younger you get, the less likely it is they have that.
Exactly. So it's a vital, fundamental part of being a human, and I think that we could do better at it. I think that we're on the cusp of an evolution in that regard, actually. But that's just me being silly and having big thoughts. As for this podcast, I don't know. I just kind of hope people like it. Like I hope it's nice to listen to, but like, you know, if not, that's cool. It's cool too. We'll keep talking no matter what.
Right.
But like recording it for others, like it'd be cool if people liked it. But if they don't like it, then we'll just record it and reference it ourselves later.
I mean, I don't know if I don't have to edit them. If the whole point is to, be as vulnerable as possible and to the point where I don't edit them at all, then it's not really that onerous to set it up to where we can record it. And then it's pretty easy just to pop it on Medium in an article like, hey, I did this.
Mm-hmm. Make sure you reference somewhere that it's unedited as a choice, not because we like suck at making things. Because like some people are gonna be like, "What is this?"
But see, that's the judgment you were talking about.
I know it totally is.
You're just afraid of people judging it, and you know what?
Go ahead, judge us.
I'm gonna talk a little tiny bit about that article on my Dominique account where I wrote about Peter Sage. I still, to this day, get people that literally sign up on a Medium account just to insult me, just to attack me for my opinion about Peter Sage.
You bringing it up in this podcast,
and I'm bringing it up here because I've gotten to the point where when they do that, I pity them. I no longer care what it is they said, because the point is, why do they feel the need to judge me? Why couldn't they just shake their heads and in their mind be like, I disagree, and move on? The fact that they needed to make me feel pain.
Well, at least try to.
Or at least try to make me feel pain.
Presumably.
I find pitiable.
It's pretty pathetic.
So in that same vein, somebody that comes across our stuff and doesn't choose to really listen to understand why it's unedited, that for them to judge us and then try to make it a judgment of, oh, you just put out shit, I pity them in the same vein.
Interesting.
Because what drives a person to need to attack somebody based on something so superficial?
Right. Yeah, it's pretty silly. It definitely happens, and it may happen here, but but you should definitely insult me in the comments. I like that. That makes me happy.
It's funny because you're the one that's worried about the judgment.
In a certain regard, there's very specific boxes that I cannot define for you. Where one set of judgment is terrifying and awful because I made someone's day worse, and one set of judgment is hot and I like it and please more. Like, that's my dichotomy for judgment.
Well, you do have a middle area where you're just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
It doesn't do anything for or against you. You're
I
like,
guess that's true.
sure.
I do have a neutral territory.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you don't have to do anything. Reader, listener, person,
At this stage in my creator journey, I feel like, I mean, it's not like I don't care at all. Of course I care. They attack me and it hurts because I'm fucking human. But I'm learning not to take that pain on, as a new trauma. I'll express it in whatever way I need to express it, and I will move on because it's not worth it. These people that need to hurt me to feel good about themselves, maybe that's what they needed to do, and I feel sorry for them that they need to do that, but I'm not going to take that pain with me. I'm also not going to stop them. I'm not going to tell them not to do it because that's not going to stop anything.
No, I mean it's kind of hard with only tiny little comments to be able to, extrapolate the personality of a person, especially when all they're doing is shitting on you. But like, they're doing that for their own reasons.
Yeah.
Whatever those reasons are, like that is their path, and it doesn't have to affect yours at all. That is your choice whether it affects you or not. And I live by that a little bit, but like there's some gray areas that are difficult to define, you know? So.
And I'm sure that we'll touch on those gray areas in these podcasts.
Maybe.
And that'll be fun.
Maybe we'll have a whole podcast dedicated to the tumultuous, chaotic feelings I feel about J.K. Rowling.
Maybe. Could be. I mean, you could make an easy argument just around J.K. Rowling in general.
There's a lot
to be a podcast there.
There's a lot to do, but that's also a topic that's been touched on so much.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to beat that dead horse any further, but maybe one day. So I don't know how long we want our podcasts to be.
It's difficult to say. Some of them are 30 minutes and some of them are 4 hours.
I feel like at this point, an introductory podcast doesn't need to be super long. So this seems like a good place to more or less start ending the podcast.
Sure.
So I'm going to say next time, I don't know what the main topic is going to be for the second one. But one of the things that you had suggested was a Q&A sort of thing where we like go online to find one of those like getting to know you question and answer things, and then we talk about those questions, one of those like getting to know you but like on a vulnerable scale. Maybe that one that like they proved that it creates intimacy or whatever.
Maybe.
But that might be a little too much.
I don't know, it's possible, but like getting to know each other, who we are as people, as opposed to creators is kind of the whole idea that I have there, because like one of the things, I'm sorry, I'm going to go on a tangent here. One of the things that I've really been enjoying about my forays online over the past, fucking decade or whatever, or more, probably 2, because if you look at Cracked, is understanding that these people that are putting so much effort into entertaining online are people. very much people. They have a people-like trajectory in their lives that is very interesting. So, like us at the very beginning, having a thing where we talk about who we are as people, what we think, what we do, how we feel. Actually, I thought that that might be interesting for the lore if we ever make it to like episode fucking 300.
Because then we could do it again and see what changed.
Sure, and also people that deep dive would be able to go back and be like, oh, now I know so much more about these people
Right.
that I heard it.
Kind of a little
episode
Easter
of.
egg for
Mhm.
people that get real into looking in the past.
Yeah.
When we're
Which
years in the future.
Again, I don't know that there's very many people that do that, but that's something that I do. When I find a new creator, a new YouTuber, a new Twitch streamer, or whatever that I like, I look into their past. I see what they've created in the past and what they've been passionate about and what they got excited about and what they were upset about. And like, I've seen so many comeback videos from like different YouTube creators that like went on hiatus for a few months or a few years. Like, so many. And so like those things are just, they're really interesting to see how a person is reacting to that, being in that situation, because nobody was in that situation 40 years ago. That wasn't a thing. You couldn't do that.
Right.
And so watching humanity experience a new profession is very interesting to me. It tells me so much about the race.
So I'm going to say that's probably what we'll do in the next one. If any of the listeners that have actually made it all the way to this point, if you have any ideas or like links to a Q&A that you would like us to play out, please put it in there. We will definitely at least consider it, if not actually use it. So at this stage, any amount of commenting that you do is probably going to make a major impact on the next podcast that comes out. So you're in a good place.
But no pressure.
No pressure. No pressure.
Genuinely,
just privilege.
If you have listened to this point, thank you so much. It's an honor that you would spend over 40 minutes just listening to us bullshit, and I very much appreciate that. So thank you for spending your time with us.
I agree. Much appreciation. We're gonna probably continue to do it even if there are no listeners, but like,
hell yeah,
even just one person listening to this, oh my god, that's gonna
sweet.
Make me feel all warm and fuzzy inside and get all like, ooh, I wonder what they thought.
Okay, are we gonna do a little sign off thing then?
I don't know. I guess.
Do you have words to say at the end?
Do I? Oh yeah, I do.
Well then, let me do my little thing first, and then you do yours. Okay. All right. So thanks again for listening. Once again, I am eternally mortal, and I hope you find smiles this day.
And I am Tam on Medium, or the Accidental Monster on Medium. And until next time, follow each other, follow the dopamine, and follow yourself always.
Bye-bye.